it's Alyssa, and I am so excited to talk about Barbie today. I've already seen the Barbie movie twice, which was directed by Greta Gerwig, and obviously stars Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling as Barbie and Ken. And it was a really great experience. Was it the perfect movie that I went into it expecting? No, it wasn't the perfect movie. There were still some issues that I had, some issues with the storytelling that I thought could have been improved or maybe gone a little bit further. So I'm going to start off by talking about the movie with just non spoilers, talking about what I liked in the film. But then when I'm going to get into the things that I thought could have been improved, I'm going to just give you a warning and say they're going to be spoilers because I can't talk about the things that I wasn't crazy about without spoiling the movie. So, all in all, I thought the story idea of Barbie having an existential crisis and feeling like these impending thoughts of death and having to go to the real world, that is such a great storyline for Barbie. But I think that is, in a way, what set me up for a little bit of disappointment because the idea of that being a person who is an existentialist, being a person who studies gender theory, I was just so excited for all of these things. But at the end of the day, maybe it didn't quite push it as hard as I would have liked it to go. And I think that was the thing that was missing. And I think another problem is I walked into this thinking this was going to be in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So, I mean, a lot of this is just on me and the expectations I was putting on the movie. When I saw it the second time, I actually liked the movie more because I knew what I was getting. And so I just appreciated what I was getting. And I thought it was mostly well written. I think, my Lord, the set design is unbelievable. That is actually better than what I expected it to be. I very specifically did not watch the second trailer that gave a lot of the story away because I wanted to see everything for the first time. And when I saw those sets where Barbie is going from Barbie Land to the real world, they were beyond what I would even expect. It was so gorgeous. It went back to a lot of the like two-dimensional drawing from older movies. I had watched a video with Greta Gerwig. It's on Letterboxd. It's so good. It's all of the movies that influenced this movie, and I definitely recommend you watch it. And I'm going to talk about a few of the movies, but I could see so much in The Wizard of Oz after watching that video, and some of the other films that she was talking about as well. But from an artistic point of view, I thought the sets were incredible, and like the little inside jokes of there being no tea in the teacup, and it reminded me of what it felt like to play with Barbies. And I had not thought about that feeling in like what, probably like 30 years. And for a movie to unlatch something in my mind that took me right back to being a little girl was really special. And in that way, in that nostalgic element, the movie succeeds so well. The costumes are incredible. The way they kind of introduce it, I won't say anything yet, but the way they introduce some of the costumes, or the way they'll do like a freeze frame with some of the actual costumes, that was great. I thought giving a lot of like a history lesson with a lot of the dolls that actually did exist. So all of the dolls except for the Proust Barbie doll actually do exist. So all of that information was really funny, and it was interesting, and it had the historical element, and it was just kind of thrown in so casually, and but it like filled out the story so very much. And I thought those were the things that just worked so well in the story. When it comes to the casting, I mean, Margot Robbie is perfect as Barbie. She looks like Barbie, but she adds a lot. And I think what I liked most about her performance, and the parts that I liked the most about her performance, is when she really went for the comedy, when it was very strong, over the top comedy in the story. And so, like, for example, when she's very upset and she's lying down like a doll and moving like a doll, and it was so over the top, or interactions with her and Ken are so over the top. I loved that she had those comedy moments and that she really hit it. Like she pulled it off. And that was amazing. That was like one of the parts that I loved. Uh Obviously, I don't think if you've watched this channel, then you definitely or you probably know that Ryan Gosling is my favorite working actor and he's been my favorite working actor it was since The Notebook, but I mean, I when I saw The Notebook and I was like, "Wow, he's a really good actor," I went back and I watched things like The Believer, which if you've never seen The Believer, that tells you just from, like, that moment what an incredible actor he is, and for me, he's just my favorite. Like, I get his comedy, I get everything about, like, the kind of projects he picks. Like, the projects that he picks are the exact things that I love, like, except for maybe things like The Gray Man, which was not one of his best movies, but for the most part, I really love the kinds of stories that he picks. But he did not disappoint even a little. I mean, like, he was so funny, and he is so funny in things like The Nice Guys and Crazy Stupid Love and La La Land, and this was him funny at, like, an 11 the entire time. I've never seen him go for that sustained and that long a comedy as he did in this movie, and it was great. Like, he committed, it felt so real and genuine, but also there was so much that was interesting about the Ken character, and I'm gonna get into it later when I do the spoilers about why, in some ways, his story was just from a writing perspective, a little bit more not I don't wanna say interested, but maybe executed in a way where I was like, "Oh, this hits a little bit harder than the Barbie story." I'll just say it right now, and this will be without spoilers. It is so much that age-old adage of show don't tell, and I felt like with the Barbie storyline, there is a lot of telling rather than just showing the story. And I understand that is really because you want to make sure everyone's getting the point. And the audience you're looking for, they may not get it if you just sort of like show it to them. They're not going to get the full message of what it is that you're going for. So because that is the primary message of the movie, they're gonna just tell you, whereas I felt a lot of the issues with Ken were shown, like, his character was shown in a lot of ways, and you put the pieces together about why he acts the way he does, and he does the actions that he does in the story, and that's just more interesting writing. So I feel like in a way, it just is so weird that a movie that is about Barbie, you're drawn to the Ken character or like you're very interested in that character, even though he is such a he there is not a lot more going on within that character than what he's showing you, but there's a lot that that character kind of leaves you thinking about, which that part I was not expecting at all. So I would say all those things make it was a really well-made movie. It had no business being as good as it was. It's just that when I heard Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, I think I wanted the darkest Barbie movie ever to be made in the history of Barbie movies, and that was never gonna happen. It was never gonna be I think in my brain, I was looking for Promising Young Woman, which is psychotic. Like, that is never gonna be what that movie was, and, like, already my friends have told me, like, "You're psychotic for saying that," but I do really stand by the fact that I think it would be the best double feature to watch, Barbie and then watch Promising Young Woman or vice versa just to make you feel better about the world so it's not so quite so depressing maybe. But like, Promising Young Woman had that sort of a pastel candy vibe that I just so attached to, but then it's obviously really, really dark. So I'm going to get into more of the spoilers now and things that, once again, that I think do really work well in the movie and things that I just wish it pushed a little bit further. And so I'm going to start with the two things that I kind of brought up at the beginning, which is the integration of the idea of like existentialism and finding yourself. And the thing was the line about like, do you ever think about death? Like how many people think about death? That is kind of as far as it went in terms of Barbie having an existential crisis, and it's all because of the woman in the real world, played by America Ferrera. The feelings that she's having, and they're sort of like shining these feelings together. But I don't know, I just wanted it to go further. I wanted her to actually like really question the purpose of life and love and friendships and family, but also some of the more, horrible things about being a human, about being a woman, about death, about, sickness, illness, responsibilities, like the whole gamut of human existence. I really wanted to feel in this character, in this character, and in Barbie's storyline. And I also think when I heard in an interview Greta Gerwig say, I think people would be surprised how emotional it was. Well, that already then set me up for, oh, this is going to be heavy. Like it's going to be funny. It's going to be heavy. It's a satire. It's emotional. And it's like, it just touches on what it means to be a human, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a man, but it doesn't go further, which once again, it's really not supposed to. This is just what I put on the movie. Also, some of the elements where it's talking about like the gender, there is a lot of just like telling directly what people feel like as a woman. And I love when you just feel it in a movie. Like I thought it worked really well when they first got into the real world, and Ken is feeling so awesome and people are like paying attention to him, but in a really non-aggressive way. And she feels so different. I thought that part was really funny because you're putting them in a situation, you're showing how they're responding, you're showing how gender dynamics in the real world are so like 180 degrees different from Barbie land. And it was like, okay, that is funny. But as it went on, Barbie is just telling a lot about how she's feeling. And I just want to see it a little bit more through like actions and circumstances and situations. So once again, I understand that you really want to make it clear of, you know, the what's problematic with Barbie, what's amazing about Barbie, but there was a lot of telling it directly, and that's definitely not my favorite way of doing it. And so then on the opposite end, I feel like with Ken, they showed everything, and that's what worked so well. And this is the part of the movie that I loved so much because I personally just love like learning about gender criticism and how the world is incredibly difficult for women, and the world is incredibly difficult for men, and for totally different reasons. And it's all about expectation and projections, and I felt like that was shown so much with the Ken character, and how he was just looking so much for something more, which is why, spoiler, Ken kind of becomes the villain of the story and destroys Barbie Land by bringing the patriarchy back to Barbie Land. And I feel like that idea as a whole is so funny. Like that was a very funny direction that the story goes in, and that leads to what is my absolute favorite scene in the movie, which is the Ken song. I mean, there was literally, was there a better part in the movie than that whole sequence? Like that was just one of the greatest. I can't get it out of my head. Like I just sing the song. Like I go to bed and the song's in my head, and I wake up and the song's in my head, and I'm kind of mad about it, but not really. But anyway, that's like that's a side thing. But I really feel like it did a good job of showing how lost Ken was as a person, and he had no like goals or anything beyond Barbie, and how like there's a lot of people in the world, male, female, anyone, who puts attention and kind of like lives their life through another person but doesn't know any other way, rather than just being that person, like the person that they actually are, and being comfortable in themselves and knowing who they are. So I feel like it was such a interesting thing to talk about, gender in that way and how he was so frustrated, and then he goes into like the exact opposite direction with the toxic masculinity, and I thought that was just, there's so much that you're seeing, there's so much that they're showing about the character and how like once you hear the Ken song, which does have a really big purpose, he realizes like he can be enough and he doesn't need to, just be who Barbie sees him to be. And also that whole sequence and the references to Singing in the Rain. And it felt like movies from the 50s and 60s and of course the 80s. Like it was just visually everything that I love. And I thought the dance was so incredible. The song was great. And there were so many little things, and like the use of the song Push from Rob Thomas, that was another thing where I'm like, you could not have picked a better song for Ken to be playing at Barbie. Like it was just, there were so many of those great decisions. But at the end of the day, there were little moments with the emotion that I thought hit and I did feel it. But like sometimes I want to be gutted. And like, no, like I always want to be gutted. Like that is the kind of person. Requiem for a Dream is one of my favorite movies. So obviously I know something is wrong with me. But uh, the one more example that I'll bring up is at the very end of the movie, and it was such a good idea where it's like you're seeing Rhea, is it Handler, Ruth Handler, the woman who actually made Barbie, and they're in this sort of like in between world. And is Barbie going to be a human or is she going to stay in Barbie land? Like that's a great scene. And when they do that whole sequence of like, this is what it means to be a woman, this is what it means to be a human, I thought they could have done so much more with that montage. And I had read the interview that she basically just got all people from the crew to film their lives and they put that into the movie. But it just to me showed a lot of the happy parts of being a human. Everyone was younger in the montage. So it was a lot of kids and families and babies. And none of that looked particularly bad, and it wasn't the full gamut of what it means to be human. And I feel like if you want to show that, you need to show people when they are ill, or people who have, you've lost people have passed away, the process of getting older. Like I feel like you need to show the whole gamut of what it means to be real, and that would have made this movie a perfect movie, and it would have been too much and it would have been too heavy. And I wanted to say at the end of the day, when I left this movie the second time, the smiles that I saw on people's faces as they were exiting the theater, it was amazing. But as my husband and I were walking out, there was a mother and a daughter ahead of us, and the daughter was saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for giving you a hard time about wanting to see this movie. This isn't what I thought it was going to be, and I'm so glad I saw it with you. I almost started crying. Like that hit me more emotionally because it was like, wow, I saw people really coming together. I saw a ton of mothers and daughters. I saw a ton of moms with a bunch of girls all coming together and all dressed in pink. I saw older, some people who were older, who were all friends, who were dressed in pink going to the movie. It just brought so many people together and it was beautiful. And that's why I can't, even though there are like maybe little nitpicky things that I'm looking that I'm saying, it's still this miraculous movie that kind of took over everything and it made people happy. And to see the vast majority of people leaving a theater being really happy or welling up and crying, that's what movies are supposed to do. And so, while I feel like it is a movie that is nearly perfect, and maybe doesn't hit in every single way, that is just for me personally. And this might be too much. I'm an INFJ. That is my personality type. I am looking for really strong emotional connections in stories and analysis, and it's there. It's definitely there. The Alan character was really funny and interesting. The Midge character, I wanted more with a lot of the Barbies. Like I thought that I wanted more with Issa Rae. I wanted more with Emma McKay. Um, what was Emma McKay doing in that movie in such a small role? I just thought it was it's like, you just played Emily Bronte. How are you barely in this movie? So anyway, it was a really good experience. I definitely recommend it. And the one little area of improvement, and this because I'm old, some of the music did not completely hit for me completely. But that's also, I don't love pop music. Like, I'm not even gonna say it right, but the Dua Lipa, is that how you say it? Dua Lipa? I don't know. That song I thought was really fun. I love disco. The Billie Eilish song I thought was a really good use of this, that she did a great job writing that song for that moment. I just wish the montage hit a little harder. Um, and the Ken song was amazing, but everything else I was kind of I would not be able to identify it again, but that's just me. But all in all, I would love to hear how you all reacted to the movie. I hope everyone had so much fun watching it. I have not seen Oppenheimer yet, but that's just because I can't get. I need like the perfect seats, and I every time I try to get when I'll have access to the seats. It's even if I'm 2 hours late, I can't get the seats I want. It's fine. But I will be seeing that, I think, this weekend. So I would love to know what everyone felt about Barbie. It's kind of taken on a life of its own. I hope everyone has been doing well. I know I've not been here a ton, and I now have a pass to actually go see movies in the movie theater. So I'm hoping I get to actually do this a lot more because I'm going to actually get to see movies as they're coming out. It was getting just way too expensive. And now I feel like I found a way to do it a little bit cheaper. So I hope everyone is well, doing well, and let me know what you think about the movie. All right, everyone. Bye.